Grab your favorite alcoholic or non-alcoholic beverage. Please don't drink and drive, and drink responsibly. And join us for our latest episode of Why Complain When You Can Whine. It's been so long. Let's see if I can get
I know.
Welcome to Why Complain When You Can Whine, making sense in the senseless. Join us as we attempt to make sense of toxic nonsense while drinking wine. I am Dr. JD Larman, and today, bring us back. We're back. And my drink today for this topic, I just thought it was pretty funny, is Revelations.
Revelations. That's very fitting.
Oh, and it's a Cabernet Merlot, and my glass is the liquid therapy because of our topic.
Liquid therapy. I need to get a glass like that. That is just so good. Unfortunately, my dog attacked my drinks that I was supposed to have, and they are no longer present. So I'm going to have a imaginary in my hand this evening.
Did he drink any?
She didn't drink it. She just punctured the can of my.
Man, good thing
Whatever. So I apologize. Next time, I promise I will have my choice of beverage, but I will just join you on your revelation wine, and
hopefully it's good.
oh, cheers. I'm sure it'll be great. Cheers.
Oh, you didn't introduce yourself. See, it's been so long.
It's been so long. Sorry, everyone. My name is Brianne Bury. I am a licensed RTC therapist up in British Columbia, Canada. Dr. Larman and I met some time ago, and she has invited me on these podcasts. And we sort of took the summer off. I had lots of things going on. And I had my girls over the summer when they're out of school. Life becomes very busy.
Yeah, it's been a busy summer all the way around. I mean, yours seems like it was more fun than mine. I went on vacation, which was nice, but then I came home and had surgery on my foot.
Yeah.
And then I got my master closet. Yeah. Then I got my master closet done, which was so exciting. I've wanted to do that almost literally the entire time I've lived here. So finally did it. And then I had gum grafting surgery. So I had fun surgery.
I know. That's crazy. That doesn't seem like it's a very fun summer.
But it wasn't too bad. I'm just glad it's done and over with. And knock wood, they seem like they were both successes. So
that's
been beneficial in that. And I am going to do a shameless plug right here too, because another thing that we did in the summer is my travel bestie and I started a vlog on YouTube that we're really trying to grow and build. It is called Jody and Candy Go Places. And we have a lot of little shorts, like less than a minute or minute videos. We have some 3-minute videos of the places that we've been, and we talk about like where we've been, how much it costs, things like that, or little things to do, events to do that were free, or things that we got invited to. And then we also vlog, like we give our opinion, and those are about 20 minutes long. So if you go from here, after listening to all this toxic stuff that we're going to talk about today, over to Jody and Candy Go Places, you can watch like Disney fireworks and stuff like that, and kind of.
Oh, that's lovely. What a happy way to kind of have people settled after having a difficult
discussion. Go from the toxic to the fun.
Yeah, that's great. So, that's awesome.
Hopefully you guys, listening, this is my little shameless plug. So tonight, even though Brie lives in Canada, what happens in the United States doesn't stay in the United States.
No.
Sadly, toxic especially spreads. So when you have toxic stuff going on in the United States, everybody knows.
Well, I will say, as a Canadian, and we're your northern neighbors, everything that happens in the US directly affects Canada. In fact, most Canadians are more interested in US politics than our own, because we have a terrible leader. For those of you that know anything about Canadian politics, which probably many of you don't, and that's totally okay. Justin Trudeau has been our prime minister for a long time, and he's really bad, and he's probably the worst Canadian politician we've ever had in power. So I know he'll be ousted when we have our election coming up.
When is that?
Same time as yours. It's
Oh, but you know what? That's interesting, because like you said, I had no idea.
No.
I don't know who's running. I don't even know I'm
No.
embarrassed to say this, like how your politics work. Like, is it like ours? I
No,
don't.
yeah, it is. We have 4 parties that run, right? So it's a little bit different. So we have, the NDP party, which is more about, union workers protecting unions, unfortunately, the economy goes in the tank when the NDP get in, right? If the NDP party gets in, we have the Green Party, which will never be voted in a billion years, which is all basically Green Party. And then the 2 candidates are much like the US, which is your conservative versus Republican, right? Like, so, or sorry, conservative versus liberal. So we have the liberals in power right now, which would be very much your Democrats. But again, a horrible Democratic leader and or sorry, not like liberal leader that we have. And then we have the Conservative Party, which would be seen as your Republican Party, but we don't mix church and state. So this is where our politics totally different from the US is that our Conservative Party is way safer, is because we don't mix church and state.
Until 2015, Republicans, like my late husband was Republican.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh, okay, well, you're going to vote for him. I'm going to vote for him. Our votes are going to cancel each other out, but you do you, that's
Mm-hmm.
a free country. But it was more like back in 2015 and before, people were like, if you don't make $1 million, why are you voting Republican? Because Republican is about the money.
It is. Same with conservatives.
Yeah. And I am socially liberal, fiscally conservative.
Me too. That's exactly how I am. Socially liberal, fiscally conservative. And because our country is is in the shitter financially, and housing costs are through the roof, our taxes are through the roof. Now we pay higher tax because we have medical coverage where you guys don't have, but I'm still happy to pay that, so I don't have to pay $5,000 for a cut on my foot.
Yep. Yeah. And that's with insurance.
And that's the scary part is that we pay a flat rate, which is quite cheap, but we pay, our taxes are a little bit, but it's worth it because again, everybody needs some sort of medical coverage where you guys don't have any of that unless you're, even with insurance, you get screwed. Yeah. Everything's private. So we don't have that. We have a whole medical.
So you have socialist medicine.
Yeah. Yeah, socialist medicine. I know, but
no, I'm all for socialism.
Yeah, but I'm all for most countries in the world do. The US is probably the only one that doesn't. Excuse my dog. She got a run today and was up on a mountain hiking, so I don't know why she's barking right now. It's like every time I talk to you, Jody, she just seems to go a little bit cuckoo.
Pay attention to me. Yeah.
Totally.
But here people don't like, oh my God, you're socialist. It's like, oh my God, how can you, especially with COVID?
Yeah.
So many people couldn't get treatment because we don't have.
Yeah, I know, but we're not socialist. Come on, like fuck, seriously. Like Poland is a socialist country. Like if you think about the Eastern Europeans and countries that's socialism. I don't consider myself living in a socialist country. It's bullshit. It's again, yeah. So our politics are different, and now most people are wanting a conservative government because it creates jobs for people. And yes, again, they kind of are in the bracket of protecting the ones that are, the money, but at the same time, they create jobs for everybody, and we seem to have a more balanced budget and a balanced economy. Whereas with a liberal leader that has buried our country in so much fucking debt, he just kept printing money that our kids will never be able to pay off, and that our taxes have gone through the roof. So, and he's a complete donut. He doesn't know what he's doing. His dad ran the country and was like basically as criminal as Justin, but he was a drama teacher. But then you guys have Trump, and then you've got Harris. And again,
I have always, and we're going to get to the real topic.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
But just a little background. I've always been Democrat, but I have always described myself as middle, which is now called centrist. But I've been middle and I lean to the left. There are some Republican things that I believe in. There are some Democrat things that I don't believe in.
Mm-hmm.
When Trump was elected, I went left because that you had to. I mean, it was like if you were left,
yeah, absolutely,
you were right.
Yeah, and you didn't want to be right. Yeah, I know.
And it was terrible. And then within what really changed, to be honest, October 7th. The Hamas Israel, when Hamas attacked Israel, because of the way that the left were treating Jewish people in Israel and glorifying Hamas, terrorist group that a lot of Jewish people went, nope, we were here for what is it called? Black Lives Matters. We are here for the LGBTQ. We're here for everybody, anti-Asian hate. But now anti-Semitism has skyrocketed. We're no longer part of, we can't be part of this. So a lot of Jewish people have gone back toward the middle.
Mhm.
And what I'm seeing here, and some people might disagree with me, and that's fine. Leave it in the comments. Be polite, but leave it in the comments. It's great. I don't mind having dialogue. But the alt-right and the progressives have become extremists.
Mhm.
And they're almost meeting in
Mhm.
their extremism. So people are now going back to the
Mhm.
or the center.
Mhm.
Because when Trump was elected, it's like centrist, centrist. And it's like, you were horrible if you were in the middle. You couldn't, you had to pick a side for a
Mhm.
lot of people. So now it's like, I had a friend, she's conservative, and she asked me, she goes, why are you liberal? And I'm like, well, because you guys call me liberal because I'm
Mhm.
Democrat. So whether I'm liberal or not, just because I'm Democrat, you guys call libtards, liberals, whatever. It's
But
like,
just think about that. Think about that just right there. Libtards. What it goes to show your level of intellectualism. It is non-existent.
yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Like really? Some
There's,
guy at a Trump rally was being like, "Oh, there's Trump and then there's we got to get rid of the hoe." And
yeah.
I'm like, "What?" Like again, the misogyny, and that's what we're going to be getting into, but honestly, and it scares me because the last time a female was running in the
Oh,
US,
Hillary, yeah.
Hillary, it didn't happen. I feel like our world should be ready, but how much misogyny do we still have in the world, but let alone the US? Like, holy shit, heavy misogyny. And are they ready? But she's running circles around this douchebag. I mean, Trump is the biggest, he's embarrassing. It's hard as, okay, again, Canadian, I know. And this is going to offend some of you because what rights do I have in the way of putting my perspective or input in? But if it doesn't even matter, if you're looking at it from an objective perspective on the outside, watching the US politics is like watching a fucking comedy show. It is embarrassing that this man can actually be in the position he's in after he's been a convicted felon. How?
His side
It's like the
says
worse he
he's
gets, the
not a
more
felon
publicity he gets, the more people vote for him.
because
It's
he
so
hasn't been sentenced. This is the thought process, and I'm dead serious when I say this, because
I
so
know.
many of them have said he's not a felon, he hasn't been sentenced. He was
So
convicted.
again, when we look
You're
at narcissism and
convicted.
justifying, right? And we look at dealing with irrational, I hate to say it, but watching the Trump rallies, you have people commenting like, oh, gun laws. Oh, well, you got to fight fire with fire. You can't fight fire with water. Okay.
Do you know that
You
in
actually
Florida?
said that out loud. And then the rest of the world is looking at this going, what?
In
How?
Florida, they are having this huge increase across the state of kids calling in bomb or that they're going to shoot up schools. Up and down the state, they've had a, what is it, deluge?
Mm-hmm.
The word, of calls. They've already arrested some 11 and 12-year-olds, and they have one of them that they arrested 11-year-old because they said they're going to start putting mug shots and perp walk the kids, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for because the
Mm-hmm.
parents should be part of that too. They found fake weapons, a bunch of fake weapons, a bunch of fake ammo, knives and stuff in his room.
Yeah, I know. Again, we don't have that here. We have gun laws. Has nothing to do with population. I know we've talked about this before, but the US it's a major crisis. To the rest of the world, watching Trump and the fact that he even has an opportunity to be a candidate again when he already ran the country and the guy's the biggest fucking walking contradiction, embarrassment. Psychologists and psychiatrists have labeled him in documentaries as a full-blown psychopath, a
He is,
malignant narcissistic
yeah.
psychopath.
If you want to know about NPD, if you want to learn about
He
NPD,
is
if you want to see
textbook.
all the things that we talk about,
Yep.
gaslighting, mindfuckery,
Yeah.
Darvo,
Trump is
all
a
of that,
prime example. If you can't see that, then you've got some major personality deficits yourself.
yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
not sorry.
He he is. And again, He's gaslighting people, which
Of course.
is just baffles my mind that he can do this. Now, the person he picked for his running mate, JD Vance.
Ew, this is what we're talking about.
Yes. Honestly, if it were not so dangerous, it would be fucking funny. It would be hysterical. However, it's very real. And it is a very real possibility, sadly, that this man is actually more dangerous than Trump when it comes to women and women's rights.
Yep, he certainly is.
And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the misogyny. It's not about the politics go hand in hand, but it's not like this is a political issue. This man is so fucking misogynistic. I did a TikTok video in 2022 on him because he basically said that women should stay in a marriage, even if it's violent. Now, he right now is trying to get rid of no fault divorce. He wants people to stay in marriages no matter what. No matter what. And he thinks that the liberals who are for divorce, against misogyny, all of that, are causing people to experience, or relationships to experience, more domestic violence by making it easy to get out of a relationship.
So what do you think his perspective is? Is this the sanctity of marriage that people just don't take seriously anymore? And it's for religious beliefs that men and women, when they get married, have to stay together no matter what?
Well, like you had mentioned before we went on there, or earlier, Canada doesn't have the church and state.
No, we don't.
Our Constitution this country was founded on getting the fuck away from this church.
Exactly.
We came from England because of.
Yes, this is exactly why the rest of the world does not, it just is dumbfounded. And people, when I say this, I'm not talking just as your northern neighbor here. And I have a million American friends. I've got so many friends that live in the US. I can see a lot of various perspectives, epigenetically, the fear based on the gun laws, based on all these different things, and being able to be open enough to see different perspectives. But the one thing that is the most corrupt thing in the entire world is faith, when it becomes you're mixing it with politics.
Yes.
We don't mix church and state. Most countries don't, because it's dangerous.
Our Constitution calls for a separation of church and state.
Yet the people that are the ones pushing for constitutional rights are the ones that are mixing church and state. Again, it is the biggest hypocrisy.
We need more God in our schools. We need more God in our government.
Here's the funny thing. In Canada, we don't talk about God ever. You can be religious, you can have your faith, but people just are quiet about it.
And the thing is, we have so many different religions. So there's different, if you will, gods that they're talking about. When the church and state people, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Bober, all
evangelical Christians,
they're talking about not God, they're talking about Jesus. We need Jesus. And I have former coworkers that keep posting all this stuff about Trump and Jesus brought Trump to us. And it's like, is that not blasphemy? They're putting pictures up of Trump as this godlike person. Is that not blasphemy? And I'm sorry.
It's like Catholicism having the Pope being the most godly person, but like next to God, like nobody can get closer to God than the Pope. Again, believe what you want to believe. Have your faith. Nobody's faulting you for that, but you can't mix it with political power and constitutional construct, or social construct. You just can't. You can't. It creates problems. And look, this is exactly what it's creating. This guy, and he is a piece of work. And when now they're saying after birth abortions, What the fuck?
Of
That makes
murder and
no
infanticide, and it's
sense.
not legal. And
It
no
doesn't
one does
exist,
it.
and yet people are believing this bullshit. And it's like, that's called murder. Nobody executes babies that are born alive. There's
And
no
what's
such
really
thing as an
scary,
abortion.
this
Abortion
is
means in utero.
this is
Fuck.
what is scary though. This is what's really
No.
scary is people believe
It
this.
hurts my brain.
They
It
believe
really hurts my
this.
brain. I don't, this is where my heart goes out to, Jody. Like, it really does. And to all my fellow Americans, like, how frustrating and infuriating it must be to be living in a country with such fucking stupidity.
As a
I'm sorry.
psychologist, it's even more
Well, I bet,
mind-boggling because you're like,
but delusional.
where
You
did
see delusional disorder everywhere. This is a form of fucking
it's
delusion.
cultish. And what's really sad, the saddest thing to me is there's so many people. Trump built his platform and they're continuing it now on hate. And there are so many people that crawled out from under the rock that they were under because it wasn't okay to be hateful. It wasn't okay to be racist. It wasn't okay to be vocal about it. But Trump made it okay. So these people who claim to be such religious, godly people are also saying, get the fucking immigrants fucking out of our country because the
Yeah.
Haitians are eating
Here's the
cats and
deal.
dogs.
If you really actually want to know about the real live Jesus that existed, he didn't hate. He wasn't racist. He loved thy fucking neighbor. He was selfless.
He was brown.
Again, contradictory, hypocrisy in the fullest, most purest form. It is infuriating as women because women have naturally been suppressed from the beginning of time. Okay, so when you've got people who are trying to push an agenda, such as this guy, saying that it's okay to be in a marriage and you need to stay in it, regardless of whether you're being abused. And I don't mean just hit, smacked around, any kind of abuse, psychological, the most damaging kind, verbal, sexual, you name it. You don't stay in a relationship, period, whether it is not marriage or it's common law or it's whatever, if somebody is mistreating you. The end.
And this is what he said. Okay, he was asked a question in 2022 because he wrote a book about his life called The Hillbilly Elegy, I think is what it was called.
Which is so fitting.
And I know I'm doing this for the podcast, but this just makes my skin fucking crawl, but I think it's very important. Someone asked him, what is causing one generation to give up on fatherhood when the other one was so doggedly determined to stick it out, even in tough times? Remind me, I have something to say about that one, besides what he responded. Now, Vance, who was an Ohio Republican Senate nominee when that story first came out, said, this is one of the great tricks that I think the sexual revolution pulled on the American populace, which is the idea that, well, okay, these marriages were fundamentally, maybe even violent, but certainly they were unhappy. And so getting rid of them and making them easier for people to shift spouses like they change their underwear, that's going to make people happier in the long term. And maybe it worked out for moms and dads, though I'm skeptical, but it really didn't work out for the kids in those marriages.
I'd like to see the clinical data on that.
Clinical data does support the fact that kids do way better in a divorced household where
Yes,
the
I
parents
know.
are amicable in front of them.
Yes, but there's no abuse going on between parents.
Exactly. Than they are in an unhappily married household. There is significant clinical data that backs that up. As far as 1994, when I was working as a registered psych assistant, I was researching the data because I had some clients that were trying to get a divorce and I was looking all that. And one of my coworkers wasn't divorcing because she thought it was better for her kids. So I was researching all of that. And as far back as 1994, and you can find it today, as recent as today, as now, 2024, children do way better because we feel that, oh, the kids don't notice. We only fight in the bedroom.
Oh no, kids are tape recorders.
They are sponges. They absorb everything. And you may just fight in the bedroom, but do you think they don't hear it?
Oh God, and not
you
even
guys
just hear
act
it.
like
They
a
know.
And you act like a romantically happy family outside of the
They
bedroom?
know.
No.
So you're not fooling anybody. And here's the deal. To protect yourself and self-protection and autonomy and all the rest of it. He's got no relevant proof. But again, the people that are going to go for this bullshit and the people that are going to buy into it or believe it are the people that are like, we don't believe in science.
And the abusive
Okay.
ones.
Yeah,
The
well, of
abusive ones.
course.
She
They're
ain't gonna
again.
leave. And I'm gonna put that guilt into her.
Mhm.
How many women, and probably some men, it's not just it's more women, but men are abused too.
Of course.
But how many women have stayed in marriages? How many have you talked to? Because I know I've talked to a lot that say, and I've talked to men too that say, I'm staying until the kids are 18.
I almost did that and I finally left. And
Yeah.
I know my friends, I've got people I know that stay for that exact reason, or they do and then they leave and then it's a hell, it's a mess. And they're like, I stayed for the kids because I thought I was doing them a favor. I thought it was good for them. Exactly for those reasons.
I have one of my longest friends. I've known him almost all my life. Stayed in a marriage because he thought he was doing the right thing. And his kid said to him, do you think we didn't know? Do you think we didn't notice? Do you think we saw? One, they never did anything as a family. They slept in separate rooms.
I know. I know what I don't understand. Again, there's no logic there. But this is such a form of distorted thinking. When you think about what we talk about usually, which is NPD and narcissism and personality pathology, you know damn well that this is all distorted. Like you listen to the justifications people are making, and it's like they're literally saying the sky is fucking purple when we all know it's blue. And they know it's blue, but they're just going to say it's purple anyway. It is infuriating. It is frustrating. But Jody, what like again, where does misogyny come from? As therapists, we know the root of misogyny. It's a hatred for women. Look up the clinical definition or the definition of misogyny, and it usually is born to men who have a very dysfunctional relationship with their mothers. They got
And
mommy fucking issues.
and sadly, when you look at it, the mom wasn't necessarily the bad person.
No, not necessarily, but a lot of what what I've seen within narcissistic men and misogynistic
Yeah.
men who really have sort of this, I'm going to objectify women. I don't care. They're lesser than I am. I'm superior to them based on, again, it's our society, but they have this sort of warped mothers that, oh, my son can do no wrong. I put him on this pedestal, but women are putting this pseudo this expectation on their sons to be their pseudo partner when they're not getting it met by their intimate partners.
But what I mean by the mom wasn't always a bad person, like working in prison,
Yeah.
dads, a lot of the guys' dads were very abusive.
Oh yeah.
And the
Yep.
mom did everything she could, and they still end up huge misogynists because they watched their dad,
Their dads.
their mom,
Yes.
like a
Yes.
piece of shit.
Yeah, exactly. Or mom put up with it or
Yeah,
didn't
mom
stand
putting
up
up
for
with it.
themselves and mom put up with it and then it's a loss of respect for women. That's where misogyny comes from. And women are threatening.
Yeah.
Right? Somehow it's a threat, but it's a real disdain towards women. So any man or any of the opposite sex that actually has the thoughts that women are inferior to men or that they belong in the kitchen or that they belong to staying in abusive relationships. I mean, honestly, ask yourself the question, why do I hate women so much? Because that's really what it is.
They're afraid of them. Why do we hate things that xenophobia? That's
Threatening.
that fear of the what we don't know because we don't know what they're capable of.
Exactly. And if you look at Middle Eastern culture, this is a huge thing, right? And I have clients that are in Saudi Arabia, and I have a client that was just dating a gentleman from Egypt, believe it or not. And the guy is brutal. You want to talk about, again, women are treated worse than animals.
We have
And
another podcast to do on what's happening in Afghanistan.
we do. But it's sick. It's so sick. But again, it's because there's such an innate insecurity and fear about the potential that women have to make them inferior. And they just will not ever, 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 ever allow it.
And this is another thing that Vance, because they asked Vance to like comment and clarify. The thing about JD Vance is he doubles down. It's like he doubles down on his shit. So at least he's got that fucking conviction. Excuse my, but whenever he's wrong, he will double down on it. He said, someone asked him for comment. He said, I reject the premise of your bogus question. As this is super serious. So the reason I'm laughing is just because how ridiculous it is, but it's super serious. So don't take my laughter as it being, it's one of those unbelievable laughters. As anyone who studied, this is what he said, I reject the premise of your bogus question. As anyone who studies these issues knows, domestic violence has skyrocketed in recent years and is much higher among non-married couples. That's the trick I reference, that domestic violence would somehow go down if progressives got what they want, when in fact, modern society's war on families has made our domestic violence situation much worse. Any fair person would recognize I was criticizing the progressive frame on this issue, not embracing it.
Yeah.
Forcing people to stay together skyrockets domestic violence. During COVID, sadly, when we were locked down,
massive abuse went through the roof.
Because people in domestically violent relationships, and that is physical, emotional, psychological, financial, cyber, any of it. Now you're stuck in the same space as that person. You can't get away. So saying that forcing people to not be able to get a divorce is going to help domestic violence, that getting a divorce actually increases domestic violence, show me the data.
Exactly. Where is this data? Does he have data? No.
He's
speaking out of his ass. And yet people believe this guy.
Yeah. Now, he said that he's saying that he's not. Okay, wait. Another stance that he has is on abortion and whether a woman should be forced to carry a pregnancy to full term after she has been a victim of rape or incest.
Yep.
He said, I think two wrongs don't make a right. At the end of the day, we're talking about an unborn baby. What kind of a society do we have? Do we want a society that sees unborn babies as inconvenience and to be discarded? It's not whether a woman should be forced to bring a child to term. It's whether a child should be allowed to live, even though the circumstances of that child's birth are somehow inconvenient or a problem to society. The question really to me is about the baby. So figuratively, fuck the woman.
Yep.
Now, literally, she's already been fucked against her will.
And now you're going to make her carry a pregnancy that's super traumatic. And she has, here, let me ask you, what government in the world has the choice or takes the choice away from any man and his body? Oh, wait, there isn't one.
No.
There is no political realm, government around the world, anywhere in the world, that tells a man what he has to do with his own fucking body. But somehow in the US, nowhere else in the world, they are saying the government has control over what a woman chooses to do with her body. And let me add to this argument.
Nowhere else in the free world.
In the free world.
Afghanistan.
In the free world. But literally the US being a politically powerful country that has all the, it doesn't happen. I will add, if you look at biology and you look at from scientific proof and data, do you know what a embryo and fetus is in a woman's body until it's born? It is a parasite. Did you know that that's what it is? It's actually considered a parasite, and a parasite needs a host. The mother is the host to an unbreathing, like it's not breathing yet. It's not breathing oxygen. It's not, it is reliant on its host through the umbilical cord and through the placenta. It breathes amniotic fluid.
But
now,
here's
I'm not saying late-term abortion is okay unless there's a real good medical reason for it, but it is actually considered by scientific definition, a parasite. So and here's the deal too. Where the fuck are you going to be when that baby is born and given into foster care where it's being sodomized and raped and abused brutally and forced to live all because you think that it has a right to be here? Watch the women and watch the people who have gone through the foster care system because their parents, their mothers, were not allowed to have an abortion because they couldn't give it a good life, but then they're forced into the foster care system where they're being brutalized, and now they've got mental health problems up the ass and being like, I wish my mother would have had an abortion because this is no life. So where the fuck were you after I was born? You fought for me to be here, but now you're no longer here.
And not only that, one of the big reasons that people are all anti-abortion is because the right has shown pictures of actual little baby looking things.
I know.
And that is not.
No, it isn't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Massive cells.
Going back, it's a massive cells. And usually when abortions are performed, usually within the first 10 weeks to 12 weeks of pregnancy when it is not even a fucking fetus yet.
Yep.
So here's the deal. Again, it's basically performing. Here's the deal. Women have to have the right blood type. Why do you think your immune system is suppressed when you're pregnant? I've 3 children, by the way. 3. I'm mother of 3 daughters, and Dr. Larman has a son. We are mothers.
Yep.
I love my daughters to death. I am pro-choice.
Yeah.
You do what you have to do. But here's the thing. In those first, when we are pregnant, we fall pregnant, we are susceptible to getting sick way more than the average person because our immune system is suppressed. You know why? So our own bodies don't kill the fetus because it's a parasite. And if you don't have the right blood type, right, there's one blood type you can have that you actually have to get an injection so your body does not kill the baby.
I found out my son, I'm Rh positive.
There you go.
Negative.
Yes.
And people say it's not the first child, it's the second child that can be an issue with. Now that I've had that, I would have to have something done.
I've got friends that were Rh positive, negative, or whatever it is, and they had to have that injection. As soon as they found out, they're like, we need to give that to you because you could miscarry. Yeah. And guess what a miscarriage is called in the medical community, folks? A spontaneous abortion.
And guess what? It has been used against women in states where abortion is now.
I know this is, but since Roe v. versus Wade was passed, it's disgusting. It is disgusting that medical practitioners will lose their license and face jail time for the rest of their life if they don't save the life of a breathing live human being, all because they're trying to save the life of what at this stage of the game is considered biologically a fucking parasite. And I'm a mother. I love my children. The day I found out I was pregnant, I was excited. I would have been devastated if I lost them because I wanted to have them. But you cannot say if you are being raped or there's incest that you should be forced to carry that baby to term and then what do you do with it? Give it up? Keep it?
You do not go on social services because they do not believe in social services.
See, this is again, what the fuck do you do at? You don't even have an answer for that. Oh, God will take care of it. No, he fucking won't.
No.
Again, where is God when this one woman, and I watched her TikTok, I will never forget it. It was fucking brilliant. It went viral. She says, where the fuck were you when I was getting sodomized in foster care? When I was being raped, when I was being beaten, where the fuck were you? Because you forced my mother to have me, but then she couldn't take care of me because she was poor and she couldn't afford me. I had to be given up. But where the fuck were you? You pushed me to be here. And then it doesn't matter. I can go into the foster care and now I'm forced to live a miserable life.
Because they are not everybody that's anti-abortion is this. Not everybody. So don't come at me, but the vast majority are not anti-abortion. They're not pro-life. They're pro-birth.
Yeah, they're pro-birth. They're not pro-life, because if you were pro-life, you would actually see through or see out that child's life, all for it to be taken away either through abuse and disgusting circumstances or to be knocked off in a fucking school because you have no gun laws.
Oh, You're gonna get me on so many tangents. We have so many
But this is
podcasts.
why, do you see how Dr. Larman and I are so, it's
Oh,
infuriating, the anger, the rage, because women have suffered suppression from the beginning of time.
and it's
And
not,
now we're going backwards.
yes, we're talking politics because of the party that they're in, but this is separate from should be separate from politics. Used to be separate
It's,
from
I know, but it's not now because
this is
again, the
right,
government owns a woman's body
right.
in the US.
That's
You
why
know
I'm
what we
saying
all
it
said as
used to be.
Canadians? You need to have a fucking abortion, you just come to Canada, we'll help you.
Yeah.
Take care of that
In
for you.
California,
We'll
we
help you.
codified it into our
Yeah,
constitution in
yeah.
California.
Honestly, it's absolutely horrifying. And if you're a little girl and you're fucking raped by your uncle and you were forced, not only does incest breed disabilities and intellectual problems, but for fuck's sakes, again, it's like her life doesn't matter. Her body isn't her own.
No.
She has no right. She has no say, yet she was forced against her will. And you are gonna, it's a living, breathing, it is not a living thing. It needs
Where's the
help.
dad? Where's the dad?
Yeah. Oh, wait,
Dad
it's
doesn't
my
take care of
uncle.
it.
No. But
Dad
again,
has
when we're talking
zero
about rape and
responsibility.
incest,
Yeah.
think
Zero
about the worst case
responsibility.
scenario. You got a fucking 11-year-old little girl that hasn't even fucking gotten her period yet or menstruated, but somehow ovulated and wound up conceiving because her uncle raped her.
Well, because she was being abused the whole time. So by the time she ovulated, she
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah,
have
yeah.
a period because he was already doing this shit.
Yeah, I was already doing all this shit. She gets pregnant and now she's forced to carry. This has already happened. This has
Yes,
already happened in the US. And
it
she's forced
had
to
more
carry
than
that
one.
baby to term. She cannot abort it. That little girl is going to be screwed up for the rest of her life or need therapy for the rest of her life because
And
of
the
the trauma.
family is going to take care of it. And this is another thing that JD Vance said. He said that the grandparents should be childcare for the kids, for their grandkids. You don't
I can't.
need
Yeah,
specialized
let's preach
childcare.
Jesus and let's preach God because apparently like that's the right thing to do and we need no, 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 and no, 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 no.
Now, another thing that JD Vance said was he said to Tucker Carlson, we're effectively run in this country by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made. And so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too.
And
Now,
so where's the logic there?
okay, here's the grossest part of this is his wife, who is East Indian, okay?
JD
She,
Vance's?
huh?
JD Vance's wife is East
Yeah,
Indian?
East Indian. Usha Vance. She took a stab at defending him by saying that her husband, who also said that people without kids are more likely to be mentally unstable sociopaths, would never want to hurt people trying to have kids. The problem's just the heathens who actively choose not to have them. He said that JD Vance would never, ever, ever want to say something to hurt someone who was trying to have a family. If people would take a moment to understand the context of her husband's comments and the focus was less on the 3-word phase, they would understand that he was simply arguing that it can be really hard to be a parent in this country, and sometimes our policies are designed in a way that makes it even harder.
What?
I don't get that the childless cat ladies running our country has anything to do with it's hard to have children. If it's hard to have children in this country, why are they also against IVF?
Exactly.
And if it's hard to be a parent in this country, why are they pushing for okay, right now Florida is has a deluge of people kids calling in threats to shoot up schools. Surprise, because they can carry and all of that. And DeSantis doesn't really like the idea of metal detectors in schools because it slows down the kids being able to get an education. But yet potentially dying
because of Wi-Fi and having metal interfering with Wi-Fi
because
connection.
the lines to get through the metal detector
Oh, really?
are
Really?
too
It's
long and they're
interrupting their
late for
opportunity to
school.
get an education?
Yes.
You know what? You'll get a better education if you just move out of the US.
And if you're alive, for fuck's sake,
Yeah.
like, let's not worry about banning guns or anything like that. We're going to worry about metal detectors taking too long to go through the lines to
That
potentially.
they're potentially hurting their education. Yet there's guys and a lot of, I'm gonna say it again, Trump supporters that are like, oh, we need to fight fire with fire. You can't fight fire with water. And yet probably didn't have to go through a metal detector when he went to school. And look how much of a dumb fuck he is. I'm sorry. I'm
And
sorry.
anybody, honestly, that needs an AR or an AK for hunting, you're gonna tear apart that animal.
Yeah, hunting is
You're not
so
gonna
that
get the
you
meat
have
from it.
meat. The whole purpose of hunting, I know there's lots of sports hunters out there, and let's not even get into that. But really, if you're hunting for deer meat or moose meat or whatever it is that you're hunting for, an AR-15 or an AK-47, those are meant to kill people in large quantities, not to kill an animal.
They're military. And the
Mhm.
fact that both Kamala and Tim Walz own a gun, but she is for banning assault rifles. So they're having a field day with that. I own a gun. I'm for banning assault rifles. There's a difference between a handgun and an assault rifle. I own a gun because it was my husband's and it's up in the closet. And when I was getting my closet redone, I had to move it to the other side. I've
Mhm.
learned how to clean it. I've learned how to shoot it. I've learned everything about it. But even still, it's got a trigger lock. And I'm like, it's in a container thing. And I'm like,
See, you're brave. The thought of even touching a gun scares me. Now I have. I've been to a shooting range. I've even shot an AR-15. They're loud. It's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. I was in a relationship with a guy who really liked his guns. He was an actor and he had props, but he had real. And again, holding his hand, I was just like, oh God, this is frightening. It actually scares me. I wouldn't know what to do. We don't, again, so many laws in place. You just can't.
I worked in a prison, right?
Yeah.
Law enforcement, right?
Yeah.
Younger guys, they were voting. This was in 2016. They were all voting for Biden. The older guys were like, my guns. They're coming to take away my guns. It's like,
I
oh,
know. Trump.
fuck's
And
sake.
that's the only reason why it's disgusting.
No one
It's
is going to take
gross.
away your guns. One, you're law enforcement. They're not going to take away your guns. Two, they're not going door to door.
No.
What the fuck?
Again, we learned nothing. Have we learned nothing from World War II when you think about letting somebody like Trump back into power after fucking Hitler? And yet people are like, oh, Trump's not Hitler. He would never. Oh, really?
He already is.
He already is.
He's
And if
already
you don't
started
see
it.
that and you don't see the manipulation and the slow, and it's not even slow, he's just so blatantly upfront and obvious about it.
And now Trump attempted to do damage control with the cat lady thing by saying that,
But now apparently the people of Springfield are eating the cats and eating the dogs.
yeah, rather than being offended by what Vance said, women without children should understand what he was getting at and appreciate where he was coming from.
Oh, we should appreciate him. Spoken like a true narc, hey?
And a true misogynist.
Mhm.
Instead of being mad at me, bitch, understand your place and why I'm saying what I'm saying.
Appreciate me because I'm entitled. I deserve to be appreciated. Again, childless women I just it's almost like you said, it's laughable, and even to have to comment on what that means on so many levels, it's just so there's just no logic. There's no logic. Zero
Any
logic.
okay, they have the whole traditional wife thing going on right now. I think like trad wives or something. Those are the traditional stay at home, do whatever wives. Here's the thing. Do you and let everybody do them. As long as it's not illegal, immoral, and I'm not talking about the Bible, immoral, illegal, immoral, unethical, or it harms someone intentionally. And if you harm someone and you didn't realize it, and then you find out about it now and you don't stop, that's intentional. So
Mhm.
unless you're doing those things, you do you.
Mhm.
If you choose to have an abortion, I may not agree with you, but it's not my life.
Not my body,
It
not my
doesn't
life.
affect me in any way. If
No.
you choose to stay in a domestically violent relationship, that saddens me. I'm scared for you. I don't want you to do that. I will try to talk you out of it. But you know what? It's still your choice. If you choose to get a divorce just because, that doesn't affect me. That is still your choice. I don't understand why anybody should be in anybody else's business like that.
But they shouldn't. And that's, again, that should be part of our social construct, but it isn't. Everybody's opinionated and everybody thinks they know better. Here's the deal. You think that you should have the right, or the government should have the right, or anybody that's, and it's sad because not all Republicans, you
No,
know,
we're talking
you can't,
MAGA.
we're
MAGA.
talking about radicalism, but the whole thing about, if you are so against abortion and you are one of those people, then you should be forced to take all the foster children in that are born out of rape, incest, or not financially being able, and it just happens and they get, you should be the ones that are on the hook for that. And heaven forbid there's any contradiction in the way that you raise children.
You know, they should have, you know how you sponsor a elephant in Africa, or you can
I
sponsor
used to have 2
a
sponsor
turtle?
children over for World Vision.
Okay, they should do that here. You don't want me to have an abortion, sponsor my child.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. I'm saying, like, you don't want me to have an abortion, then the child is yours.
Well, you
You
don't
think
have
that
to
this
raise
baby
it.
has a right more than I do to my own body and my choice, then you have to take it.
You don't have to raise it. Just pay me. Just pay me the amount of money that I would spend raising it. I'll raise it if I have the finances.
Yeah, but what about things like incest and rape
Well, yeah.
though?
Yeah.
Right? That's like, again, being forced to have a baby out of, like, I didn't choose to get pregnant because I didn't choose to have sex. It's been taken away from me against my will, and now I've conceived.
Yeah.
Then those are the
Anybody?
people where it's like, if you're gonna push me to have this baby at 13, you fucking take
Yeah.
it and raise it.
And the thing is, when it comes to rape and incest, which incest is still rape, I mean,
Oh, of
it's,
course it
you know,
does.
it's not about sex, it's about power, it's about control.
Mhm.
So it's not like, oh, but your uncle loved you. No, that was power and control. So when you're taking that dignity away from a woman and then forcing her
It's
to
sick.
then raise that child, there it's sorry, but I can't imagine a rational human being that doesn't see the fucking lunacy of
Here's
that.
the thing. If any of you watching this out there has a shred of empathy in your body, and if you know what that means, it means that you can actually picture and put yourself into the shoes of another person. If you are women watching this that actually believe that you shouldn't have an abortion, regardless of how you got pregnant, especially when it comes to rape and incest, I want you to picture yourself in that situation and then feeling the movement of that baby kicking you, and a constant reminder of how it got there.
Yep.
And know the PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and the trauma that you are more complex trauma, more. Every single time that baby moves, you are constantly reminded of how it got there.
Yep.
Tell me that you don't think that's inhumane and wrong.
I know when I got pregnant,
And if you are a woman who's had a baby, and to all the childless, or sorry, childless women out there that only have cats, but to the women who've actually carried a baby and given birth, that are so pro-life that they think that this is okay, you tell me how you would fucking feel every time that baby moved inside of you.
and going back to the only having cats, my husband and I tried for 7 years to have kids.
Wow.
Tried. I ended up getting pregnant a year after my husband passed away. One time without a condom. One time. a whole other story, but that was what I was, I wondered what my purpose was, and I got pregnant, and that's what my purpose was, to have my son,
Mhm.
who I love. I'm not going to cry. But for him to say childless cat ladies and those who choose to not have children,
Some
okay,
women can't.
had I not have gotten pregnant after my husband died, I would have been a childless cat lady. And
Right.
there is nothing wrong with choosing to not have children.
Exactly. Regardless of if you can't have children, that's a completely unethical and unfair statement, but it's unethical and unfair anyway because you're allowed to choose not to have children.
Yes.
You are allowed to choose not to be a parent.
Yes.
My aunt decided not to have children. You know why? Because she was so abused growing up that she just
I want to do it.
didn't think that she was capable of giving a child the proper life because she didn't have the self-esteem. She didn't have the self-confidence to think that she'd make a good mother. She was terrified she'd wind up like her own mother, so she didn't have kids. Now, are you going to blame her because she chose not to have children because she simply was so beaten down that she didn't have?
No. And to say that they are sociopaths and mentally unstable.
Again, you've got no clinical data backing that up, fucktards.
But not only that, do you remember when hysteria
Yeah.
and depression and
Or
all that was called hysteria?
Freud, yeah.
Women, if we were anything women went through, we were hysterical.
We were hysterical. We were deemed
Hysteria.
hysterical.
And you know, one of the ways that they got rid of hysteria was to masturbate women.
Yep. Okay, so the funny story about that, and if you actually, any of you other who are therapists or would be interesting to understand more about complex trauma and trauma in general, is read Dr. Judith Herman's book on the recovery of trauma. And she is the one that starts and goes into great depth on how Freud discovered hysteria in women, and he was bang on. And guess where it stemmed from? Sexual abuse and incest.
I was going to say men.
And no, and that
Okay.
exactly men. And then when men got wind of what he was discovering, they got mad and they got angry. They're basically like, don't you dare tell us that we're the problem and that we have to stop doing what we're doing. It must be something else that women are becoming hysterical over, which is classic PTSD, CPTSD, depression, anxiety, all the things, right? So then he decided to say that women were sexually frustrated because they didn't have a penis. And so they had to marry a man to gain that appendage to relieve the hysteria. So yes, they would masturbate them. They would come into clinicians' offices in the turn of the 20th century, and they would be sexually stimulated. That's where a vibrator was invented. That's where it came from. In order to alleviate hysteria in women, it was a medical condition. And it's so barbaric because obviously we've deemed that bunk over the years. But the only reason why Freud changed his mind was because he caught flack, because he actually got it right in the beginning. It wasn't until World War I when men came out of war and were showing signs of hysteria. And psychiatrists were confused because they were like, well, this is impossible. This is a woman's disease. This is a woman's mental illness. Men can't have hysteria. Why are they showing the symptoms? So they coined the term shell shock and combat neurosis. Combat neurosis was treated with electric shock therapy. World War II happened, and guess what? They're seeing more and more and more of this combat neurosis, but they didn't call it hysteria. It was something totally different.
Hysteria was just meant for women.
It was meant for women, right? Move on until the DSM-3 comes out in the 70s. And
No,
the
it came out in
Vietnam War,
1980, didn't it? DSM-3 came out in
in the 1980s, sorry,
Yeah.
19 in the early 80s, but just before
DSM-2.
that, after the Vietnam War, which was in the 70s, they finally decided to call hysteria. Actually, I'm going to rephrase this. Hysteria was then recognized as combat neurosis. Combat neurosis was recognized as hysteria, and they came up with the term PTSD, which is a clinical diagnosis today within the DSM-5. It's the same thing, it's trauma.
And if you think about it, when you think about going back to misogyny, women, what happens to women? You're just hysterical. You're being hysterical.
Oh, you're crazy. Oh, she's crazy.
The word hysterical is used a lot, though.
It is, isn't it?
Hysterical, yeah. And you know how, and I do this, I'm guilty I don't even want to say the word guilty, but guilty of this. When I get really, really, really angry at something, I'll cry. I'll cry. If somebody's saying something to me and it makes me so angry, I angry cry. And then what do they call that?
And why do you think that is? Hysteria, it's hysteria or you're being hysterical.
What do you
But
think?
it isn't. It's again, it's the suppression of women. So there was somebody that commented on my one of my TikTok videos, and I had and again, as an employed therapist, I have to be very careful with how I conduct myself on social media. And on my personal work accounts and stuff, I try to refrain from saying certain things or sharing, trying to remain as neutral as possible. But there was a transgender woman named Mama Rose. She went viral. She was all over the place. And she was trying to suggest that trans women very much have periods. They just don't have the murder scene in their pants. But they get the cramps, and I very much get cramps, and I have the and then on the mood chain, I'm like, no, no, you don't. You have symptoms from taking estradiol, which is a female hormone that may give you gynecomastia, which is breast tissue. So you might develop sore breasts and you might have moodiness, but you cannot have cramps.
The only way you can have a period is if you have
You have a
ovaries
uterus
that release
and
an
a
egg.
womb. Yeah, yeah. You have to have a womb. And so again, and so I was really quite friendly. I was really, really, really no lovey. And this is really what we would call gender dysphoria, like to the extent where she's so mentally ill, but she desperately wants to have the female plumbing. She wants to have all the mechanisms. And so she's getting angry that people are disagreeing with her. But the anger within women, on biological women on this feed, holy shit, my page blew up because they were just so, they're like, you were so nice. You handled that really well. And I'm like, well, she, I'll even respect her enough to give her the she title, is not mentally well because again, it's impossible. She doesn't have a uterus. She doesn't have a womb. She
Well,
cannot
even without a
a
uterus, she
uterine
doesn't have
lining.
ovaries
She
to
doesn't
release
have ovaries.
an egg.
No, she can't have a period.
If
But
you
yet
want to know
she
what
desperately wants one. I get it. I
a
get you.
period, wait, really quick, for those who might not know, a
Oh my God.
period happens when our cervix, our uterus, and our cervix gets ready for a baby.
Yeah.
But we release an egg from our ovaries into our fallopian tubes, and it doesn't get fertilized, so everything sloughs off.
It does because it's a cycle. I mean, that's what menstruation
So
is.
you have to have eggs.
Yeah, you have to have a uterus. You have to have
Fallopian
fallopian tubes,
tube.
and you have to have ovaries. So I'm sorry to the transgender community that you and you
But you're
see,
not going to get
but
a
here's the deal. Transgender men, which used to be women, aren't sitting there being like, oh, I can ejaculate. You don't have penis, so pretty much you can't ejaculate. Semen, never gonna happen.
Well, even if you got a penis built, you don't have the prostate, which is where it mixes.
You don't have any of the male mechanisms.
It's a vast difference to go out.
So here's the misogyny in this. And this is what's, and then apparently I'm known as a, what do you call it? A TERF or something, which is like transphobic.
Oh, I don't
whatever,
know.
Whatever. It's so stupid because I'm not. And as a therapist, I'm very neutral and I'm very much about pro whatever you want to be. But when it comes to you trying to deny women of a biological function that we were born with, and then telling us that we're fucking, oh no, sweet, and being super passive aggressive and rude, you are igniting anger within women and you are being a misogynistic fucking asshole because you are actually born a man. So that makes you a misogynist when you were then putting women down and saying that that you have a biological right that we only have and that our function that we only have. And the women were so mad. And then some people were like, oh my God, why are they getting so mad? I'm like, because again, women have been suppressed from the beginning of time. Our rights have been suppressed from the beginning. We've always lived in a man's world. Women have always been
how we feel,
physically the weaker sex because
how we feel and what to feel.
Yeah, physiologically and biologically, we are not as strong. We don't have testosterone. We don't have the same hormones. Our bodies are meant for different functions. But for you who used to be a man And yet women are the biggest supporters of the transgender community. And you are sitting there saying that you have a function that you can't possibly have, and yet tell all of us biological women who are cisgender women that we are crazy and you're being rude and passive aggressive and snarky. Go fuck yourself. Sorry, but not.
We're coming to the end, so we got to wrap it up, but we
I know.
definitely have way more to discuss on this, because
Please let us know if you hear anything that we're talking about in here and that you want us
yeah,
to elaborate on.
please comment politely. Even
Yeah.
if you don't agree with us, just be polite.
Mhm.
We can have just, like I said, civil discord is great. But any woman, and if you don't feel that you've ever experienced misogyny, more power to you. Great, fine. I'm not going to tell you you have or haven't. Don't dismiss others who have.
Mhm. Absolutely. And
No?
here where in the democracy and in the US in general, JD Vance and Trump and people that are in these power positions, this is frightening, guys. This is scary. The fact that they're even having a voice in 2024 and we are going backwards in time.
And
Not
you know what's really scary is some of these women, this is what's kind of frightening, is some of these women who are like Laura Loomer. I don't know if you know who she is. She's supposedly 31, but she is all in Trump's ear right now. And she's a very big conspiracy theorist and all that.
Mhm.
But these women are like, I want someone to take care of me.
Of course.
I will do whatever. It's fine. He's supposed to take care of me. You know what, though? In all seriousness, if that's the kind of person that you are, that you want a sugar daddy, you want someone taking care of you, more
Great.
power to you. Go ahead. But don't take my right away
Mhm.
from me. Don't my rights, excuse me, away from me. You do you. If that's the person you want to be,
Here's the
that's
thing.
you.
The single-handed most obvious trait of personality organization and dysfunction in personality pathology. So say that you have a personality disorder or a cluster B or a cluster whatever, is the rigid way that you think, that the way that you think, you assume everybody else thinks the same way, that you have no ability to think outside of yourself, and that other people might have different perspectives than you and may think differently than you. If
And
you
you want
Yes.
them to think the
Yep.
same as you.
And you want them to think the same way. This is exactly where control, power, cults, religion, all of it, it's brainwashing. It doesn't mean that the way that you think or that your perspective is right. To be open and to have that open-mindedness is what we would consider in the mental health world neurotypical. But when you are that close-minded that you think that just because you think a certain way, that your way is the right way, and that everybody thinks the way that you think, is the single-handed most obvious trait of a personality disorder.
Yeah.
It really
You
is.
know
I
what?
watched a psychologist talking about it when she's interviewing psychopaths or children that are going down that road. And
Not just that everybody thinks the way that you think,
yes,
everybody
must think the way that
think the
you
way that
think.
you
Yep.
think.
Yep. Oh, 100%. I both relationships, my exes, where they had no flexibility in seeing anybody else's perspective but their own. It was the way that they thought, and that must be the way that everybody else thinks. No,
And if it's not, you are wrong,
you are wrong and you are the problem.
not
Yep.
me. And evidence, I don't need evidence.
No, no, of
I
course
don't
not.
need science. Science is wrong.
Yeah. Again, all the people that say, oh, what is science? I don't know.
And I've had people say to me, yes, granted, you're going to find research on whatever you want to find it on. Doesn't mean it's right, but you're going to find it. However, I know people that are like, research is bullshit.
I know. Because your logic is so much more.
Okay, let's not be scientific. Let's not do research. My
Let's just
experience
go
is
based on our delusional thinking because that's the right way to go.
so
See, it's painful.
on that note, we're going to leave on the let's be delusional and everything's great. No, just kidding. But on that note, we have a lot more to discuss on this. We really do. If you haven't been watching the news too, or reading the news, what's going on in Afghanistan about women's rights, I do think we need to talk about that. Nobody is talking about that, and it is sad, and it breaks my heart what's happening there. What's happens, the same thing with Iran and women's rights in Iran. Just talking about misogyny, if you've never experienced it, you're lucky. You really are.
So,
or you're an idiot.
yeah, no, well, no, it's true though. As a Canadian, we have a very high Iranian population. Okay, so Iran is a country, I mean, tons. Okay, and a very large Muslim population. And so I know many. I work as a clinician with them, and it is frightening if we want to talk about misogyny because their culture and the way and that there's no such thing as women's rights. Children have no protection. Women have no protection. You marry in some cases to stay safe.
Have you ever watched 90 Day Fiance?
No.
Okay, it is my son's guilty pleasure. It's really trash TV.
Oh, is it? Okay. Kind of like what is it, the Mormon Wives or something, or whatever the fuck it's called?
Yeah, Sister Wives, yeah.
No, not that one. There's a new one. It's like
Oh.
the celebrity Mormon. I don't know what the hell it is. It's just some sort of
But women will marry men in the Middle East and wonder why they're so controlling, and wonder why they're saying something about their skimpy outfits. And when they come to the United States, expect them to be American. We have a lot. We have so many podcasts on these kinds of things,
We
on
do.
women's rights and what is going on in the world today, because to be honest, it's scary.
It's very scary. If Trump gets back into power, we're in trouble, guys.
We are doomed. So this is why I'm wearing blue today too.
And it's not even just the US, okay? The whole world is in trouble and we will be on the brink of World War III. Don't kid yourselves.
I'm wearing, this is actually a Dodgers t-shirt. So
Love it.
let's see. Dodgers, LA Dodgers. But I wore it because it's blue.
So,
anyways, so please like, subscribe, share, return for our next episodes, because we're going to be talking about women's rights and misogyny and all of that. And the vast majority, according to our demographics on our analytics, are women, but we like to hear from men too. I'd like to hear what men think of this.
mm-hmm.
No,
but let's just, again, be respectful, right?
Yes.
Like, there's no need for perpetuating hate. That's sort of what we're trying to get at here.
That will be deleted. I will delete any comments that I see that are hateful. Mm-hmm. I won't even, no, gone, done. We are not about hate.
And here's the thing, you know, I get called a feminist all the time. Oh, she's such a feminist, of course, from the narcissistic, controlling misogynists of the world. But we wouldn't have a need for feminism or feminists if there was equality and balance in the world, and that the power or the imbalance of masculinity versus femininity.
Yeah.
Women would go back to being far more feminine if their needs were being met and men weren't so misogynistic, controlling, and abusive. But women have to become more masculine and stronger and fight for their rights because, again, to avoid the oppression that we've been suffering from the beginning of time.
And the interesting thing to me is that it all comes from fear, because women,
of course it does,
being a woman, we're far more superior.
Well, it's really interesting. Gray matter, men have more of it, women have more white matter. Our strength is communication and multitasking because we have to bear children and we have to do it all. Men are mathematical and analytical in their thinking. So they're far, when it comes to just the biology of the brain.
Women we communicate across the corpus.
Across the court, right. So
men are unilateral.
Yeah. And it's again why men can compartmentalize. Women can't, right? They can't, or they struggle with it.
We're far more emotional.
way more emotional because, again, we bear children. We have to be. We're kind of the glue that keeps everything going. But men are like, again, there's the providing aspect there, right? Strong and analytical and project and mathematical in their thinking. Women are far more superior in communication.
Plus, the testosterone makes so many things into a pissing contest with men. Who can piss the furthest? Who's got the biggest phallic symbol?
It's ego.
Because of testosterone.
Yeah, 100%. Well, it's why men fight physically, and then they go have a beer afterwards, where women are catty and hold grudges forever.
Oh, women are catty. We are.
Oh, 100%.
I
And
worked in a men's
passive-aggressive.
prison.
Women are super passive-aggressive and catty and bitchy, and men are like, fuck you, I'm going to punch you out, and then we'll go have a beer and we'll be done and over. Which, at the end of the day, isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No, I would not work in a women's prison. Because women, I know what we are capable of.
No, it's 100%. And so men can have a heyday with this commentary right here, because we will
punch each other and then they're next to each other in a cell shooting the shit, and I'm like, weren't you guys just fighting? And they're like, yeah.
Where if women punched each other, they'd hate each other for the rest of their lives. They'd never get over it. Yeah, it's true. It's so true. Again, different hormones.
So
anyways, on that note,
like, subscribe. So glad we're back. I miss you so much, Bree.
Yeah, I miss you too,
Judy. We really, really, really would love your comments, because we have so much to discuss on this.
We do. So let us know. Have a good night, everyone.